Hello, good evening, and welcome to the War Room. This is day 41 of Russia's illegal incursion into the Ukraine. I mean, how else can you describe it, right? It's war. It's a world war. The world is involved. This is a world event. This is history in the making. This is atrocity in full display. It's the absolute worst of humankind on full display. Well, let me take that back. I have a saying, and I've been saying it to my friends for years, that nothing resets humanity's priorities faster than a world war. Nothing does. It also shows the world the best and the absolute worst that humankind is capable of. It's shocking. And it's not me trying to be emotional about it. It's just, you've seen the photos for yourself. I have a slideshow I'm going to present to you today. I don't care about the age restriction things that YouTube will do. I really don't. My objective, my goal in all of this is essentially to pry your eyes open and make you see it, because it's not going away. It just won't go away. Ignoring it doesn't make it go away. The scroller at the bottom of the screen is correct. It's absolutely correct. The day and everything. And what you're seeing across the bottom as I say this is a new category. Mobile short-range ballistic missile launchers. That's right. The Ukrainians have destroyed 4 of them. That was not a category until today. Which means the Russians are moving short-range ballistic missile launchers into the theater. Why? Because Putin has got his nose bloodied badly. He looks like a fool. His military looks like a joke. So he's reverted back to Stalingrad in terms of his approach on how to get his way. And what's really weird is his country was the victim of it, and now he's the provocateur of it instead. These people are so delusional. I mean, you have accused a sovereign nation of Nazism while employing a level of barbarism seen by the very Nazis you have called out. And you have a paramilitary private group led by neo-Nazi Russians, and you have the audacity to call the Ukrainian people and their defenders Nazis. What are you smoking? Because I could use an ounce of that just to escape my day, my life. That'd be great. Anyway, today's show is going to be rather abbreviated, and it's not for a lack of trying, but instead it's just it's kind of a slow news day in terms of the number of stories available. However, the content of the stories is quite big, heavy, serious. Use your metaphor or your descriptor here. Yes, so let me go ahead and say good evening to the panelists. Shady Hill, always the first one to be here. Always appreciating you having to be here. Terry Scherer, Mr. Knives, who still tries to find ways to make excuses to not make Discord work, despite the fact that I'm on the beta test team and have made probably 30 updates since the last time you probably tried to make it work. Yeah. And the finest of apes. And yes, I am back. If you didn't catch yesterday's show, really quick synopsis. Internet went down 13 days ago. It was down for 12 days. Got a credit, got a technician to come out here and to fix it, and it was my fence installer's fault. But I got a credit for it for the downtime, and I also managed to triple my bandwidth for half the amount of money that I spent before because my contract was apparently 9 years out of date. So now I'm faster than a T3 with a commercial keyed line, and I can bring this to you pretty much lag free, which is fantastic. And unlimited. I have unlimited now. So, just a sidebar note, other than doing the war room here, God, I mean, I like doing this. And I try not to make a mockery of this because this is very serious to me. But I can't wait for it to be over, honestly, because this is history in the making, and I don't want to cover it anymore. I just want it to be over with. Not because I don't think it's important, but because this is ridiculous that it's happening in 2022. This level of barbarism. I thought we were better than this. Humanity, that is. But, what a joke, right? It's my optimistic psychologist at work and sociologist at work. Anyway, regardless of that, rather short show just because I think I've only got about 12 stories for you, so we're going to get through those pretty quickly. The story of the day, I will include a slideshow for you if you are a bit sensitive to that kind of graphic barbarism. Grow a pair of balls and just face it, will you? Because it's not going away. Anyway, let me go ahead and bring in my panelists because I'm going to drag this out if I don't. So, here is Scottish Naya, also known as Scott P79 from Gun Channel's past. And this here is Mr. FNH of Gun Channel's future. Anyway, before we went on air, I made a decision, and you can leave a comment in the description, or you can leave a comment in this video, but I had been holding out for a WBP Fox, which is a Polish AK, which apparently is not available. So I think I'm just going to buy a PSA GF4 Gen 4 model with the Bakelite, imitation Bakelite furniture, because it's also $450 less, and it has a lifetime warranty, and it's cold hammer forged everything, and it's got an upgraded trigger, and it's got a neat side mount. And with all the money I saved between the two models, especially since I can't get the other one anyway, I'm gonna buy the RS Regulate mount, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I'm gonna go nuts and buy that MH1 reflex sight for it. Fuck it, because all that together is still less than what the Fox cost. Because I still have to buy the Fox and the barrel mount, which the barrel mount's out of stock too. So whatever. And then if I want to, I can always just buy the WBP later anyway. It's not like I can't afford it, right? So I have both. Fuck it. Oh, and
you guys talking about the freaking Spiker and the WP?
Well, there's no Spiker right now, but I think what I'm gonna do is
Spiker should be out by now, too.
Yeah, but it ain't. So I'm probably just gonna buy the Gen 4 PSA. Because why not? It's $850. It's in stock. It looks decent, and it's not a go to war rifle for me. It's a hobby rifle. So fuck it. I'm gonna do that and have fun with it.
Just from my experience, I'm just from an observer's standpoint, from just me handling them and looking at them.
Yeah.
I think the WBP quality, in my opinion, is close to an Arsenal.
I like the WBP. The problem is they're not available.
Wait, they're all out of stock now?
They've been out of stock for like 3 weeks, and I told myself I was going to get one for my birthday, which is in 8 days. And so if I need to order this shit right meow. And then if it comes out later, I'll just buy that one too. Fuck it.
You check Atlantic?
Yes. See, Atlantic, what happens is if Atlantic runs out of stock, they tell you to go straight to Arms of America. I went to Arms of America. They've been out of stock for 3 weeks. So, meh.
I think Arms of America is the one that had the 5.56 AK I was talking about.
They do. They're the importer.
Yep.
They're the direct
and it
importer.
is nice.
The thing I don't get about that is like, do you have to have 5.56 AK-74 style specific mags for that?
Correct.
Yeah, but
That's correct.
WBP makes them. There's a couple of manufacturers now. It's not like it was 5 years ago. There's mags
Like I
out
said, I
there
got
and they're
those,
relatively cheap.
I had a windfall that one time. I picked up some Chinese spineless mags. They had AK mags, or AK-47 and 74 mags, and I got like 2 of each maybe or something like that for like $10 a pop. It was crazy.
I mean, if you want to buy Circle 10 mags, you're still going to pay $50 a mag. Just K-bar.
Well, that's what I'm not positive is if I could use those.
But no,
before
there's
style
Serbian
5.56
mags
and
that are
something like that.
5.56 mags that are windowed, actually. That for a range mag, they work. WBP makes them.
Mm.
They're not steel reinforced mags like 47 mags are, but for the price you're paying significant, $15, $16 for a freaking range mag. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's crazy what's happened with Bakelite mags. They're like, I hear they're over $100 a mag now.
Yeah.
They are.
I paid just under $100 for a 45 round 545 Bakelite, and that I feel like I stole.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't sound like a bad deal because, I mean, think of the 5.56. What any extended AK mag is going to cost you, or AR mags.
Mm.
Well, it's a Russian RPK mag.
Molot? Is it a Molot?
I forget if it's a Molot or Tula. It's a shield on the side of it.
Oh, I almost sent Warsaw. They had the trunnions or the rear sight. I guess it wasn't a trunnion; it was the rear sight block with the crest on it, with that eagle for WBP. And I was like, I bet you Warsaw would like this, but I just for whatever I was busy or something was just like I got to do something else.
All right, let me go ahead and get started since we have some stories to do today. Let's see. The battle map you're looking at on the splash screen today is pretty significant because it has reversed almost all of the northern flank of Russia. Now, granted, they have done what you would consider a tactical retreat. Basically, they're licking their wounds because that was a logistics disaster. And I think history will be very unkind to the northern flank of this Ukrainian conflict because a very golden opportunity was wasted. That entire convoy could have been the new highway of death had the UN just had the testicular fortitude to commit. The UN has no purpose anymore. I'm sorry, they just don't. They're useless. Because it was my understanding as a student of history that the EU, NATO, even the League of Nations way before then, these were groups that were assembled to defend the little guy, right? And if somebody was bullied, then they would ask for help, and then the world would unify around this atrocity and quell an uprising or destroy an unjust attack. And they just don't do that anymore because the world has forgotten how to fight a war to win it. And they have forgotten that since 1946. There has not been a war fought since World War II that has been fought to victory. Quote me on it. Prove me wrong. Announcing that Desert Storm and Shield were over was a joke. Because if you think about the number of soldiers and troops that were killed after that announcement, it was more than the number that happened to die during the conflict. We don't fight to win anymore. We, or the world, forgot how. Anyway. Let's go ahead and get the stories done because I have plans. I have things I want to do, and I want to get this out in the ether. Let's see. Fine 8 did go to Wanamaker, you bastard. And he said it was kind of a last minute thing, which, yeah, I kind of wanted to go do that. And I didn't get a chance to. Number one, because by the time I found out that it was going to happen, because I don't do all the normal chats like I used to, it was too late. Like, I couldn't set aside the time. I had the money for it, but the day that I would have had to make the drive, I was getting my jaw rearranged by a dentist, so I needed that time to recover, which kind of sucks. But then again, if you met me the last time I did Wanamaker, you're probably still scratching your head wondering how the hell I made that trip in a single day, hung out, did the show, bought a rifle, turned around, went back home on the same day, and then had like a 4-hour nap and went to work the following day. I mean, that was a 23.5-hour day for me. But I still did it. I still met some of you, and it was great. It was cool. And I did come home with a pretty sweet rifle. What's that?
It was me the willies just thinking about it.
Oh, well, I mean, it was a weird situation. I had committed to go. I had pulled the money out 2 days earlier, so I had it on me. Prepped the car, got up at 1 in the morning, packed my stuff, threw it in the car, and headed out at 2 a.m. in Houston. It was 81 degrees at 2 a.m. And
Damn.
an Arctic cold front was just about to blow through. I got about an hour north of Houston, and I met that front. And it was nothing but rain and wind and 40-mile-an-hour gusts driving a 2,800-pound Fiat 500 on the highway with no highway gear. It only had a 5-speed. So when I crossed the Red River into Oklahoma, it was just about 8 a.m. Like, it took me about 6 hours to get to the border. I had to make 2 stops. 2 stops for gas, 1 for coffee. When I crossed the border at 8 a.m., it was 21 degrees. There was 80 pounds of ice on the front end of my car. Because I was moving, like I was scooting. And I just kept running into that northern wind and sleet, and it just built up. I had to kick the door open to break the ice away from the hinge. But, yeah, got there, and then by the time I actually made it to Tulsa, I was planning on meeting the Gun Channels people at Hugo's in, is it Claremont? I think that's the name of it. There's 2 Hugo's, but I think it's Claremont. That's the one that's got basically the unlimited plate of bacon, which I wanted to wreck and go, I don't see what the big deal is. I eat this for breakfast every Sunday. But I didn't make it.
Just show up with
Yeah.
show up with like a toaster and a fucking bag of white bread.
Well, I wanted a T-shirt that said I survived Hugo's side of bacon, but I didn't make it. I knew I was running late, and I didn't get to the Tulsa Convention Center until 10 o'clock, 10 or 11 in the morning. And like everybody was already there. I was beat. And then I walked the show for like 4.5 hours. I picked up that Grenade Fire Enfield. And, just exchanged pleasantries. And I was like, well, guys, it's been fun, but I got to go. And everyone just looked at me like, didn't you just get here? Yeah, I got to work tomorrow. And I got another 10.5-hour drive back to Houston. So they just looked at me kind of funny, got in the car, started heading back home. And what was really weird is, when you drive at night and then you're like heading home and there's certain landmarks that you see, and in your mind you're just like, I'm almost there, right?
Yeah.
And you sort of like start to mentally relax. For some dumbass reason, when I went through Dallas, I had that feeling. I'm like, I'm almost home. And then I realized, wait a minute, I still got 5.5 fucking hours to go. Oh, it was terrible. Yeah, so I left Houston at 2 a.m. to go to Tulsa. I pulled up into my driveway at 11:51 p.m. on the same day. The car had 1,130 miles on it.
How many hours of driving was that?
Round trip, almost 12.
Oh shit! I eat that up in one go, bro. One time, I swear to God, I went to DC and we had like a family trip. I was like, nah, I'll pull over, but I'm not stopping.
Mm.
Like, and I drove each way 16 hours,
I think the problem
like
with
plus
me was
stops.
is the Fiat 500 is not uh, that is not a touring car. Like the wheelbase is too short. It's too light. The seats are too stiff. The driving position's too tall. Like it's okay for city commuting, but it beat me to death. You know, like I already had that year I had tore a pectoral muscle, and it didn't heal right, and it was just stiff and sore and miserable. And it started hurting about 4 hours into the trip up there, and it hurt the rest of the day all the way back home. So
See what
that
you do for your viewers.
yeah, that plus the there's this road in Oklahoma. It's called the Indian Apaca Reservation Tollway or something. I forgot the name of it. It's been years, but it has this sign that says left lane for passing only. And I was like, when in Rome, right? So everyone was in the right lane. I stayed in the right lane. What I didn't realize was is I could see the road as I'm driving down it, and it looked smooth, but it was washboarded, but you can't see it with the naked eye. That plus short wheelbase, it broke my fucking back. Like I thought the car was gonna shake itself apart. So on the way home, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I got an out-of-state plate. I'm in the left lane the whole way home. It was smooth as glass. The left lane was pristine.
Nice.
So I told myself, yeah, if I ever make this trip again, left lane the whole way. I'll take the fucking ticket. My back is not worth that $60 fine. Anyway, it was fun. I was going to do it again. I talked to Tony this morning, and he and I kind of came to the same conclusion of, shit, we didn't know it was this early. Usually it's later into April. For whatever reason, they did it earlier. And
That's a big ass gun show, isn't it?
it's the biggest.
Is it? Okay.
Physically the biggest.
I've never been.
The building that they hosted this in used to house B-36 Peacemaker bombers.
Oh.
That's how big it is. It's a 2-story convention center. I was like, whoa.
Man.
Now,
okay, yeah, I've seen video from it before.
when they do, the biggest
Something
gun
sounds
show
like
in
a
Houston is in the George R. Brown Convention Center, which is gigantic. It's so big that it's subdivided into 8 exhibition halls. One year, they had used 3. And that gun show took me 6 hours, start to finish, just to walk the rounds. Not even really paying attention to what was on the tables. Wanamaker is probably all 8 compartments of George R. Brown. It's that big.
Now it takes you 6 hours of walking a gun show to find a single deal.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Oh,
So,
the finest of bastards. He got a pocket harmless. Well done. Very well done. That's kind of on my to-do list.
So, FN,
Hmm?
are you thinking about getting that Flame Group?
Hell no. I replaced $35 triggers with like Geisley and ALG.
You talked about this earlier.
Aren't you?
I'm fine with you having it if you want to. If it's the tits for you, bro, get at it.
Hey, you get the deformed carriers, all right? Have all the fun you want then.
Yeah, Wanamaker's 11 acres.
Parts are meant to be used.
All right, so
I just sent you that because it was like, it was porn for you. You know, it was as Kalishnikov intended.
Well, it is.
Did I save this?
If you buy it, you would see what I'm talking about. You're not going to be willing to pay the money.
Pay the money for a different trigger, or?
By the way, what are you loading? 9?
9 mil.
I'm not actually loading. I'm just depriming this. A lot of it's 380 auto, and some of it's 380 Browning cord. Or sorry, 9mm Browning cord.
Ah.
Looking fancy ass shit.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here depriming brass.
All right, so while you do that, so the viewers can see it, I'm going to go ahead and get into the stories. First one today comes out 1 minute after midnight, surprisingly enough. And it was 7:01 a.m. Berlin. Woo. Germany will expel a significant number, quotes, of Russian diplomats after the Bucha massacre. This came from German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock. The pictures from Bucha bear witness to the unbelievable brutality of the Russian leadership and of those who follow its propaganda, to a will to annihilate that transcends all borders. Federal government has therefore decided today to declare a significant number of members of the Russian embassy as undesirables, who have worked every day against our freedom and against the cohesion of our society here in Germany. Germany. She also announced that Germany is working with other European countries to tighten existing sanctions against Russia, because we all know that sanctions make bullets stop flying, don't they? Sure.
Not always.
Never.
The sanctions make our gas prices go down?
No. Make them go
quite
the opposite, actually.
Here's another point. Did the sanctions in China ever stop the Tiananmen Square massacre?
No.
Or the Hong Kong protest?
No, and they didn't stop the 1 million Uyghurs in camps either.
What happened to that guy, the famous guy in front of the tank?
The tank
Did he
man?
get killed?
No, the guy that got crushed by the tank in China.
Yeah, did he get in Tiananmen Square? That
He
guy
got run
killed?
over.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
I've only seen the video, the PC version, I guess, of it, of him standing
Where he
there.
stood there, yeah.
Yeah.
No, what ended up happening after that was immortalized in the movie The Beast of War with George Dzunda, where they ran over.
Good on him for following through with his dreams, you know?
I wanted to be the frog lube for that tank's treads, yeah.
He'll always be remembered.
Right. All right, so next photo here. And I wrote the headline for this because you guys can read this yourself, but it was air sirens rung out across all of Ukraine. This happened at 7 a.m. They actually started late, the Air Force, that is. But what makes this particularly interesting is the air raid sirens went across the entire country. It wasn't just one or two cities this time. Every city was on alert this morning, from east to west, like coast to coast, which is new. It's definitely new. Anyway, yeah, sirens have been activated in Cherkasy, Chernivtsi. You can read it. I'm not going to read it all out for you. But anyway, it's basically the entire country, which is, I think that is a first. I think mainly it's because you've got the Air Force with their jets and their helicopters, and they're using short-range ballistic missile launchers now. So it's missile command, essentially. Moving right along. About 2 hours later, this is 9 o'clock a.m. over there now. And I have this here photo for you, just to give you an idea of the shit that people have to deal with when they are trying to get out of the country. Sumy Oblast Governor Dmytro Zivitsky said that at least 3 civilian bodies were found as Ukrainian troops retook Sumy Oblast. The bodies had evidence of being tortured, obviously. Today was a very busy day, but it was a day of war. We continue to clean our land from the remnants of waste. Thanks to our defense, the armed forces, volunteers, and doctors, and to every resident of the Sumy region who is working on the restoration of the region. We are working. It doesn't translate cleanly, that's why it sounds a little awkward. Essentially what's going on is there was this tactical retreat by the Russians, so it's sort of like pulling the Iron Curtain away, because you couldn't see what was going on while they're there. Once they pull out, the media comes in, like the civilian populace comes out with their phones and their cameras, and then you get to actually see what's going on. Then they start, throwing around labels like massacre, genocide, mass graves, things like that. And then the Russians turn around and go, that wasn't us. No, what are you talking about? It's your extremists doing that. Like, really? Our extremists are killing our own people. Sure, okay. Like, if you never showed up in the first place, do you think we would still be killing our own people? I don't fucking think so, but whatever.
Sean, the crazy thing is that, as far as this going on,
yeah,
I remember what was that, the Kazakhstan protests or whatever it was?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were even denying of killing their own people there, too.
No, they have no shame. They're just like, whatever, we're doing this. I mean, do you guys remember was it a theater in the Georgia province
Mm-hmm.
years ago? And then, like, the Russian special forces were called in to try to stop this, like, hostage situation. So then the Russians decided, well, no hostages, no hostage situation. So they gassed the entire theater and just killed everyone inside,
Mm-hmm.
attackers
God.
and hostages alike. They were just like, fuck it, problem solved. Let's go
I
get
thought you were going to say
lunch.
airstrike.
No, no, it'll get to that point later, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, it's just that's Russians doing Russian things, and for some reason the UN just took it because they're useless. Anyway, another hour had gone by, and I got this update, which is just, statistics of confirmed that 165 children have been killed, 266 have been injured. This is confirmed only because this is where they found the bodies. Obviously, there's a statistic generally when it comes to KIA and wounded soldiers on the battlefield that you take the number of KIA and you times 3 for wounded or missing, right? So I think it would stand to reason that if there's 165 civilian children killed, you could probably times 3 that just for actual killed, and then times 3 that number for possible wounded, because they're running for their lives. They're hiding. They're maybe already out of the country. They're unreported. You can try to argue back numbers saying that guy was counted twice or whatever. But you know what? If the Russians never came into the country in the first place, that number would be fucking 0. So who the fuck cares? They're getting killed. They shouldn't have been killed. End of story. I know it's all propaganda, but you know how it is. The winners will overinflate, the losers will try to downplay it, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. I truly believe that 165 is an extremely low number in a country of 40 million people, where 1 million children have already been displaced as refugees. 165 out of 1 million? Are you fucking kidding me? Moving right along. So, Pwnery got some sleep after that story, and it was only 3 hours, but, that's what cocaine's for. It is 6:17 a.m. Daylight. Dawn. The fox hunt has begun. I now only have 8 dogs, because I gave one away to a friend. It's still a fox hunt in my living room. I have a couple left if anyone's interested, just saying.
Like Facebook them all.
No, this is obviously a topic for a different type of show, but what the fuck is the deal with like Facebook and like Craigslist and all this where you can't sell pets? Like what? It's not human trafficking. I know
You
what
should
they're
be
trying
like
to do.
auctioneering them off on there.
Well, I mean, I get it. They're trying to stop like puppy mills and things like that, but still, it's like I don't get it. Whatever.
I'm
Anyway.
thoroughly confused because I'm pretty sure we found my dog through Facebook.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you can loophole it. You can call it rehoming fee and just stupid shit like that. But like if you said, "Hey, we had puppies and I've got 8 available. Here's the prices," they ban you. Whatever.
What if you just have it real vague that we just
I
have
did.
8 puppies?
I did. I did it vague, and then people would email me. They like my inbox got blown up. And then I'd answer them
Oh,
back,
yeah.
and I'm like, well, we had 3. Here's the date that they were born. Here's the pictures, and this is what I'm asking for them. And then I guess someone
Yeah,
got
man.
butthurt because they tried to fucking, it's like, okay. The first thing that annoys me is, I in my description I said they're pet grade animals. They're not show dogs. They're good looking and
Yeah.
they're good stock and they're purebred. You could probably show them. But I'm not going through the hassle of registering them all with the American Kennel Club. That wasn't
Right.
my goal, I'm breeding companion animals. And I didn't even intend to breed them. This was an accidental pregnancy. And it's
Ooh.
like the first thing they ask you is, "Do they have papers?" So I'm like, did you not read my listing?
Yeah, I was like, are you paying extra for that?
So then, yeah. So then somebody else asked me the same thing. They're like, do you have papers? So then I said, I'll tell you what. I will go ahead and get these dogs registered with the American Kennel Club, but then they're going to be $2,000 a piece. And then they would just disappear. I'm like, I think
Yeah.
asking 600 is incredibly reasonable, especially considering how much it costs me to feed them, keep them, their shots up to date, and now I've gotten very good at this, so I don't have to pay someone to do the tail docking anymore. I've gotten very good at it, actually. So it's like I get to save a little bit of money doing that. But imagine if, you're a first-time breeder, you're inexperienced, so you're paying everyone to do it the right way because you've never done it before. And then you turn around and go, okay, so they're only $600 a piece. By the time it's all said and done, you made $50 because of how much you spent on everything else. Dog beds, pee pads, electric blankets, puppy food, all the shots, deworming things, their first checkup, their second checkup. And it's like, there's no money in it. And that wasn't even my goal in the first place. And then they're like, do you have papers? Sure, $2,000. They ghost you. I said 600. They reported the post and I got banned. I was like, fuck this. I don't care. Anyway.
Damn, yeah, I never had a Facebook. I just figured you could sell shit on there.
Well, there is a marketplace, but it's like, they're just so weird. I even joined a group, right, in my area for people who own Yorkshire Terriers. And I'm like, okay, cool. One of the questions in the application for the group is, are you a breeder? So I was like, yes. And they denied my application because I answered yes.
Damn.
And I was like, well...
Should have said no. My puppies just like to fuck.
No, I think they
saying?
just
Like
do that as a way
occasional
to
fucker.
screen people because they know that you're joining the group, so you can offer up your pups or whatever. But it's like, whatever.
Yeah, if you
Anyway,
could have just got like 15 minutes to post, though, bro, your inbox would have been full.
right? Like, yeah, just give me 15 minutes before you ban me.
Yeah.
It
Well, you
shouldn't be
just need
that
one
way,
post,
though.
bro.
It's like you shouldn't have to be all clandestine about it, It's like,
Now your
no.
social credit score is destroyed.
I'm on like 10 lists. I never had one. Like the first fucking list I was on was because we had to get clearance because we do government
on the list
contracts.
The gun store. They were like, "Don't buy 2 handguns at the same time, sir. You should come back in a week and get that other one." And I was like, "How come?" And they were like, "Well, we have to put you on a special list for the sheriff's department that notifies
You're
them."
not the first person to be told that. I was told the same thing.
Just give me the fucking gun. If you're going to put me on the list for exercising my rights, just put me on that list now and give me the goddamn gun.
I was literally told the same thing by my FFL. He was like, you can buy 2 at a time. He said, but he's like, you've done enough transfers with me that I have to tell you. I'm like, what's that? And he goes, if you do 2 simultaneously, I have to fill out extra paperwork that goes to the county sheriff. And I'm like, oh. And he goes, is that a problem? I said, no, I voted for the county sheriff and now he's our congressman. He even signed my CNR license paperwork. It's like, we're pretty cool. And he goes, oh. And he says, well, in that case, it's no big deal to me. But he says, if you ever want to avoid just the extra paperwork, he goes, there's an extra fee involved too. And I said, oh. And he says, but I can just hang on to the second one for an extra couple of days and everything's fine. And he's like, I just do them as 2 separate ones. And he's like, and I won't charge you for the second background check. And I thought, whatever. Because there was a time where Pwnery was going to get a WBP Fox and an RPK on the same day. And coincidentally, they both went out of fucking stock. So I'm not bitter.
For me, it was back when the M&P Shield was still like a new gun. I remember I had a pair of them, and one was 9 and one was 40, and they both had the.
My first one was a 40 also.
What was that? Crimson Trace green laser, that instinctive grip.
Yep. I got the box for that still sitting right behind me, as a matter of fact.
I sold them. I don't have either gun now, so think of that. It's like, yeah, I got on a government list for guns I don't even have anymore.
Well, apparently a June bug found its way into my room.
Hey, Sean, I gotta ask you this. You ever used Craigslist?
Yeah, from time to time, but it's like a cesspool of spam these days.
Yeah.
Well, if you think Facebook is bad, Craigslist I think is far worse in my opinion.
It is. It's way, way worse. Why is there a June bug in here? Anyway.
Dude, there's so many
Yeah,
weird advertisements on Craigslist. It's not even funny, dude.
Yeah, it's all crap now.
Just think of like Instagram when you post something and then it's instantly like promoted on craptastic.com.
Pretty
There's,
much.
I kid you not, there's even a listing for some guy to actually selling his farts to freaking women. I'm like, why the hell would I want to buy your farts?
All right. Anyway,
You have a fart fetish, I guess.
we keep
I guess.
tangenting. I need to get through this because I didn't want to do this for 4 hours today. Where did I leave off? See what you did.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, kids. Okay.
There you
Okay. So the next one was just the battle map. So I blew it up because I did cut it off for the thumbnail. 6/17. So this is when I finally got up, right? United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense said Tuesday that Ukrainian forces have retaken key terrain in the north of Ukraine, which is all that blue stuff there in the picture, after denying Russia the ability to secure its objectives and forcing Russian forces to retreat from the areas around Chernihiv and north of Kyiv. Many Russian units withdrawing from the northern Ukraine are likely to require significant re-equipping and refurbishment before being available to redeploy for operations in eastern Ukraine. Basically, what they're doing is they're going back into Belarus, then they're doing an end around through Russia, back around, and they're going to go back into the Donetsk region, and they're going to reinforce that push around the southern coast because they're trying to take Odessa, which we talked about yesterday. And if they do that, Ukraine becomes a landlocked nation, which would be terrible. Because then they would be 100% dependent on Russia and tariffs and anything else that the Russians want to do to the Ukrainians, because now apparently they really hate each other. So, moving on. Where did I leave off? Okay, so about an hour later, now I'm eating cinnamon rolls. Yes, I do say that backwards. 2:18 p.m. in Ukraine. It says more European countries are expelling Russian officials after France and Germany kicked out dozens the day before. Italy's foreign ministry said Tuesday that it is expelling 30 Russian diplomats, while Denmark's foreign ministry says that the country is expelling 15 Russian intelligence officers who worked at the embassy in Copenhagen. The officers have 2 weeks to leave. Foreign Minister Jeppe Kofod, I think it's Jeppe, you don't pronounce the J, said they pose a risk to our national security that we cannot ignore. Sweden's foreign minister also said Tuesday that they're expelling all 3 of their Russian diplomats. Wow, 3. It's just spies with immunity. Let's call it what it is. All right, so a couple of minutes later, this broke, and here's the photo. And that should be disturbing to you, that photo right there. Because about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, yeah, something like that, it's about 2:30ish, Ukrainian governor warns residents to take shelter after an acid tank in a chemical facility was destroyed. This is in Rubizhna in Luhansk, and they hit the tank that stored nitric acid. The weapon that they used to attack it was a cluster munition, and it had mixed with the chemicals in the nitric acid, and it created, what was it called? I forgot the name of it now. It was like, it's not nitric oxide or nitrodinitric oxide or something like that.
Food cloud.
It's something that basically works just like chlorine gas. And then the Russians stick their hands up in the air and they're like, oh no, we didn't intentionally do it. And it's like, really? Then why'd you hit it with a cluster munition that had chemicals in it to mix with the nitric acid to create that very gas, you fucking Slav asshole?
Did they just do the international, why are you hitting yourself?
Something like that. They're like, we didn't do this. We don't know what you're talking about.
Bullshit.
It's such bullshit because they deliberately mixed the chemicals with the explosion. And it works like chlorine gas. And instantly the UN was like, okay, can we call that a chemical attack?
I would.
No.
Technically it is. I mean, what was that?
No.
Do you remember Triple X? It was like, what was that stuff called?
No.
It was called Silent Night, right? And it was a binary liquid that created a gas that killed everyone in the room, right? Well, many people do not step forward for the moment. Welcome to Anarchy 99. Remember that shit? Yeah. Well, the Russians brought one chemical, and then the Ukrainians had the other chemical, and Wonder Twins unite, and they made chlorine gas, basically. I would say that's a chemical attack. That's what the world is arguing right now.
Fucking A right, it is a chemical attack.
Yeah. And yet, they did nothing. Shocker.
Oh, and
I mean,
guess
two
what?
wrong don't make it right.
Yeah. Well.
Also, this is no different from frickin' Saddam Hussein. So if you think Saddam Hussein was bad, he's just as bad as Putin. Putin is no different.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll repeat what chemicals it actually was for the next couple of days.
Not Saddam Hussein. Who's the one that's in Syria?
Oh, you're talking about Bashar al-Assad.
No, the other one. I'm trying to think of his name.
Well,
The guy that did the
al-Assad's
chemical
one-
attacks on his own citizens.
That's him.
That's the thing. There's so many buttholes out there. It's hard to say.
That's Assad.
Is it Assad?
The man with
Yeah,
really
it's Assad.
bizarre fat bulldog cheeks. Like, that dude's got some jowls
The
on
man.
him, man. Anyway,
With 3 balls in his mouth.
yeah, big ones. Like big meaty ones. Like Rocky Mountain fucking oysters. Anyway, about an hour goes by. It's about 3 o'clock, 3:20-ish. And I think this was 3:20 Moscow time. Yeah. Kremlin spokesman. Yeah, this is a fucked up story. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Tuesday that the mass expulsions of Russian diplomats and intelligence officers from European communities is short-sighted and will lead to reciprocal steps from Moscow. Ooh. His comments came as Spain became the latest European country to tell Russian officials to get the fuck out, with Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Albaraz announcing that at least 25 diplomats and staff at the Russian embassy in Madrid are being expelled. Germany, France, Italy, Denmark, and Sweden are the other countries to have dismissed Russian diplomats and officials since Monday. Peskov said that we view with regret, this narrowing of possibilities for diplomatic communication, diplomatic work in such difficult conditions, in unprecedented crisis conditions. He added that it is short-sighted and a step which firstly will complicate our communication, which is required in order to seek reconciliation, and secondly, it will inevitably lead to reciprocal steps. Reconciliation. It's short-sighted. You are the idiots who marched into a sovereign nation, and you're crying about reconciliation and reciprocity?
You got the fucking goal to do it. Huh?
Yeah, they do it
You got the
every
fucking
day.
goal.
Like,
They're like, I want my tanks back. I want my tanks back.
yeah,
You
exactly.
have the fucking
Stop blowing up
nerve
my
to
tanks.
ask
I want my
us for
tanks back.
reconciliation.
I mean, I think you nailed it on the head earlier. It's like the Russians at the UN Security Council are basically telling the world, stop punching yourself. Stop punching yourself. What the fuck?
You guys owe me restitution for all those tanks you blew up.
Exactly.
You don't
Who's-
pay me, I'm going to keep invading Ukraine.
Who's going to repaint this?
I know, I'm not paying for this. That's
I
basically
am
what
not
they're doing
going
right
to
now.
pay for this. This is bullshit. All right, so
Fuck up my tank, you're going to pay for it.
my next story is large. This is the one I call the story of the day. So please bear with me because I might,
A large Marge.
yeah, I might get
my
tongue-tied.
ears
while
are
doing
open,
this.
so let's hear it.
So
Yeah,
I'm going to
got it.
start this is the slideshow that I set up for this while I'm telling you this story. Most of these photos that you're seeing are either from Mariupol, which was the scene of the Russian or the Ukrainian theater bombing that killed like 400 people. some of these photos are from journalists who literally stood over the bodies so you can get a really good shot of how bad they look and how long they've been laying in the ground. Because that one picture with the guy with his two mummified hands, yeah, he'd been there a while. But yeah, these are the mainly photos from Bucha and Mariupol. So just, if you're sensitive to this, fucking man up, Jesus. Like, this is not going away. All right, so anyway, 3:31 p.m. Ukrainian local time. You can tell that guy's dead because the tips of his fingers have begun turning black and purple. More disturbing photos are surfacing showing the massacre of civilians in and around Bucha, outside the capital of Kyiv, as Russian forces are reportedly regrouping in the southeast to renew their offensive against an already badly bombarded Mariupol. They're basically trying to finish it off, right? As well as the breakaway Donetsk and Luhansk regions. In an overnight address, Ukrainian President Volodomyr Zelenskyy said that more than 300 people had been tortured and killed in Bucha. As satellite imagery seemed to back up Ukrainian claims about Russian soldiers shooting and killing civilians and left them lying in the streets and outside their homes, like the photos are showing that you're seeing on your screen right now. The Kremlin has claimed that the bodies were staged after Russian soldiers pulled back from the capital region. Allegations Ukraine and the West say is misinformation meant to displace blame for obvious war crimes. Russian forces on Tuesday were preparing for an offensive in Ukraine's southeast, the Ukrainian military said, as Zelenskyy prepared to talk to the UN Security Council amid outrage over evidence Moscow's soldiers deliberately are targeting and killing civilians. Russian President Vladimir Putin's government is pouring soldiers into Ukraine's east to gain control of the industrial heartland known as Donbass. This follows a Russian withdrawal from towns around the capital, Kyiv, which led to the discovery of the corpses and prompted accusations of war crimes and demands for tougher sanctions against Moscow, because we all know sanctions work oh so well, don't they? Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Tuesday that Russia is not opposed to a meeting between Putin and Zelenskyy, but stressed Moscow would only attend if documents were agreed and signed beforehand. Russian news agency Interfax said discussions between Ukrainian and Russian officials are continuing via video link Tuesday, citing a deputy Russian foreign minister. Russian forces are focused on seizing the cities of Popasna and Rubizhne, in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, and the Black Sea port of Mariupol. Ukraine's general staff said this on their Facebook page. Donetsk and Luhansk are controlled by Russian-backed separatists and recognized by Moscow as independent states. The general staff said access to Kharkiv in the east, Ukraine's second-largest city, has been completely blocked. The enemy is regrouping troops and concentrating its efforts on preparing an offensive operation in the east of our country, the statement had said. The goal is to establish full control over the territory of Donetsk and Luhansk. Zelenskyy, speaking from Ukraine, planned to address the UN Security Council diplomats Tuesday amid demands for an investigation of possible war crimes. Germany and France reacted by expelling dozens of Russian diplomats, suggesting that they were spies. President Biden and Putin should both be tried for war crimes. What? What? President Biden said... Oh, sorry, I read that wrong. President Biden said Putin should be tried for war crimes. I had to do a double take on that. My bad. Before Zelenskyy speaks, the most powerful UN body is due to be briefed by the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, his political chief Rosemary DiCarlo, and UN humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths, who is trying to arrange a ceasefire. Griffiths met with Russian officials in Moscow on Monday and is due to visit Ukraine. AP journalists in Bucha counted dozens of corpses in civilian clothes and apparently without weapons, many shot at close range, with most of their hands bound or their flesh burned. After touring neighborhoods of Bucha and speaking to hungry survivors lining up for bread, Zelenskyy pledged in a video address that Ukraine would work with the European Union and the International Criminal Court to identify Russian fighters involved in any atrocities. That should be pretty easy, actually. He'd be like, that dead guy, and that whole dead battalion over there, they're all guilty. Let's see. The time will come when every Russian will learn the whole truth about who among their fellow citizens killed, who gave orders, and who had turned a blind eye to obvious murders. Among the dead was the mayor of the village of Motizhin, Olga Sukhenko. Her husband and her adult son, whose tortured bodies were found in a shallow grave on a plot of land near houses used as a makeshift barracks by occupying Russian troops, according to Ukrainian officials. The three of them reportedly had been kidnapped by Russian forces several days earlier. That was one mayor out of 11 across the country that have been reported to have been abducted, by the way. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, dismissed the scenes outside of Kyiv as a, quote, staged, managed anti-Russian provocation. Right. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said the images contained signs of video forgery and various fakes. Russia has rejected previous allegations of atrocities as fabrications by Ukraine. Now, I'm sorry. That's a burnt corpse there. How do you stage that? That's 5 burned corpses, actually. You can even see the rib cage. How do you fabricate an atrocity when you have blown up their theater? You've killed their actors. Anyway. In an initial count Sunday, Ukrainian Prosecutor General's office said the bodies of at least 410 civilians had been found in towns around Kyiv and that were recaptured from Russian forces, describing one room discovered in Bucha as a torture chamber. In a statement, it said the bodies of 5 men with their hands bound were found in the basement of a children's sanatorium where civilians were both tortured and killed. The bodies seen by AP journalists in Bucha included at least 13 in and around a building that local people said Russian troops had used as a base. 3 other bodies were found in a stairwell, and a group of 6 were burned together. That's what that picture was of the foot that was burning in the slideshow. The dead witnessed by the news agency's journalists also included bodies wrapped in black plastic piled on one end of a mass grave in a Bucha churchyard. Many of those victims had been shot in cars or killed in explosions trying to flee the city. About 2/3 of the Russian troops around Kyiv have left and are either in Belarus or on their way there, probably getting more supplies and reinforcements, said a senior U.S. defense official who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss an intelligence assessment. More than 1,500 civilians were able to escape Mariupol on Monday, using the dwindling number of private vehicles available to leave, Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk said. The besieged southern port city has seen some of the heaviest fighting of the war. That's true, because there's only about 5% of the city still standing. Everything else has been laid waste. It's just a rubbled wasteland. But amid the fighting, a Red Cross-accompanied convoy of buses that had been thwarted for days on end in a bid to deliver supplies and evacuate residents was again unable to get inside the city. Shocker. So that's the slideshow. That's human barbecue. Yeah. There was another story about Russian tankers getting frustrated and running over cars stuck in traffic of people trying to escape the city. I can't wait to see pictures of that. Because how are they going to deny that one? It's like, bro, that's your T-14 Armada on top of that car with an arm sticking out of it. How did they stage that? Oh, they stole our tank and parked it on top of car. Yeah, sure. Okay. All right, Boris. All right, moving on. 10:23 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, because I believe this is in New York. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres told the Security Council on Tuesday that the ongoing war in Ukraine has led to senseless loss of life, massive devastation in urban centers, and the destruction of civilian infrastructure. I will never forget the horrifying images of civilians killed in Bucha, and I immediately called for an independent investigation to guarantee effective accountability. Right, because, talk works so well. And I'm also deeply shocked by the personal testimony of rapes and sexual violence that are now emerging. Right. Guterres said the war also has disrupted supply chains and increased the cost of transportation, putting even more pressure on the developing world. You don't say. Many developing countries are already on the verge of that collapse due to the impact of Calvin and the lack of adequate liquidity and debt relief, stemming ultimately from the unfair nature of our global economic and financial system, he added. For all these reasons, it is more urgent by the day to silence the guns. Oh, right, because it's the guns' fault. Yes. Moving right along. This was about an hour after that, actually. And I just got to work. 10:36 a.m. Central Time. Actually, I've been at work for about half an hour. 5:36 p.m. Ukrainian time. This is usually about 30 minutes after most of the city's curfews kick in, where they warn people to seek shelter and stay off the streets because dirty Russian rapists are everywhere. Ukrainian President Volodomyr Zelenskyy told the UN Security Council on Tuesday he had an address. Do I have this in here twice? Oh, I do have it in here twice. Sorry. Let me go ahead and start it from the second story because this is the longer version. Same time, though. Told the UN Security Council on Tuesday after visiting Bucha that the Russian military killed entire families. Oh, I got to do the picture. I'm sorry. Here you go. Killed entire families, adults and children, and they tried to burn the bodies to cover their tracks. Civilians were crushed by tanks while sitting in their cars in the middle of the road, just for pleasure and out of boredom, he continued. They had cut limbs, they had slashed people's throats. Women were raped and killed in front of their children, and their bodies were burned. Their tongues were pulled out only because the aggressor did not hear what they wanted to hear from them. This is no different from other terrorists such as Daesh and ISIS, and here it is being done by a member of the United Nations Security Council, and that he is proposing a future conference in Kyiv in order to determine how we can reform the world security system. How do we establish guarantee of recognition of borders and integrity of states and countries? How we will avert the rule of international law? We must do everything in our power to pass on to the next generation an effective UN with the ability to respond preventatively to security challenges and thus guarantee peace, prevent aggression, and force aggressors to the table. He went on to tell the UN Security Council on Tuesday that we need decisions from the Security Council for peace in Ukraine. If you don't know how to make this decision, then you can do one of two things. You can either remove Russia as an aggressor and a source of war, so it cannot block decisions about its own aggression and its own war, and then do everything that we can do to establish peace. Or the other option is to show how we can reform or change and work for that peace. But if there is no alternative, then the only option that you, the UN, have left is to dissolve immediately, if there's nothing else you can do besides talk.
Give us back our money first.
That statement, though, let me repeat that. If you have no alternatives, then the only option you have is to dissolve yourself, because there is nothing you can do besides talk. He's finally starting to be pissed off, justifiably pissed off. What good? He's saying the same thing. I watched an interview today with Nikki Haley, and she said the exact same thing that we're all thinking. What good is the UN if they can't stop this? What's the point of having them if all they do is sit around and talk about what they're going to order for lunch and vote on, okay, let's all vote to say that we condemn this. Great. Motion passed. We all condemn this.
I've been wondering that fucking point for like 30 years now.
Yeah. What the fuck is the point of the UN? If anything. Like, my interpretation of the UN, I think we talked about this before we went on air, is you're supposed to be big brother. But the thing is to join the group, you just had to not be a douche, right? It was like, hi, we want to join the UN. Okay, why do you want to join the UN? Well, we like what you do, and we want to contribute. And should anything ever happen to us, we would love to share the protections of being part of the group. That's, I thought, what the group was for, right? And instead, the UN's like, you know what it's like? This is a good example. Say you're an up-and-coming YouTuber, and you want to ask somebody, an established channel. I'll just give you two examples, Hickok45 and Iraq Veteran. And you're just like, hey, I know you guys are real busy, but I was just wondering if you can give me a couple of pointers on how to make this work, because obviously you're a success and I've been watching your channel for years, and I would like to be like you, right? That's the same kind of thing as a fledgling country like Ukraine saying, hey, UN, we like the cut of your jig, and we really want to be a part of it. Same thing, right? Well, what does the UN do? The exact same thing that Hickok45 and Iraq Veteran do. They send you a reply that's a fucking price list, and they're like, well, you're going to have to pay one of these things before I talk to you. That's what the UN does. They're like, here's our criteria. You have to have this, 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 and this, and this, and you have to pay this, and you have to get rid of these, and you can't have this, and then we'll consider you. But that process takes anywhere between 10 to 20 years. Because here's a fun fact. Ukraine's been trying to enter NATO since, what, 2014? When they lost Crimea? And when they were asked to disarm all their nuclear weapons to be considered for the UN. Do you guys remember that? Pepperidge Farm remembers that. Yeah. They were asked to disarm.
I remember the Crimea thing. I remember Obama like making a fucking bunch of dumbass remarks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he is just a puppet mouthpiece.
That's about all I remember of that.
Yeah. Well, the other part of that is that the UN said, if you want to join this, you have to disarm your nuclear weapons. But don't worry, bro. If anyone ever encroaches on you, the UN will be there to back your play. We have this wonderful thing called Article 5.
This, the topics alone prove that the narrative has changed. Because back when the fucking red line bullshit happened, the whole thing was like literally. No, I'm saying Obama's red line.
That was chemical weapons in Syria.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
The whole thing was just, I'm saying like them taking it and everything was just like, whatever. Let's get back to fucking how we can demonize and fuck with gun owners and make guns look bad.
Yeah. Like it was
every story has to lead back to the last gun crime.
It was an empty threat is what that was. Nobody backed it.
And that's what I'm saying. Before the media was complacent, all they did was just like talk shit about guns. And now it's the 24-hour cycle about, you know what I'm saying, about Ukraine and how we must donate.
Well, okay, so here's the other weird thing, right? The shooting that happened in Sacramento, it started off as a fight inside the club that had escalated very quickly into a mass shooting outside the club, right?
You mean gang violence outside the club? I believe that.
That most likely. Here's the funny part, though. What does Biden announce? I want to go after banning ghost guns. It's like, why don't you get the ghost shooters, you fucking moron?
Yeah.
Because where are they? Right?
Unknown.
Yeah. It's like, let's continue to not blame the tool, and let's blame the idiot wielding it. If guns were the problem, we would not have 24 constitutional carry states now, would we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope we get some more soon.
Well, truth be told, I mean, G-Webs used to have this saying, right? A snowflake will hit the top of a mountain and begin to create the avalanche. And as soon as that avalanche begins, it gets faster and faster and bigger, right? Just think of the last 10 years. How many states had constitutional carry 10 years ago compared to today?
Not even mine.
It had accelerated beyond everyone's imagination. And then an unpleasant side effect of that is ammo shortages.
There's more shooters.
Yeah. Give me just a sec.
Yeah, I miss the good old days when you could get your ammunition for 18 cents a round.
Well, the biggest problem is with the shortages is people don't seem to understand what caused it. And it's very simple. I mean, think of this. Well, sort of. Think of this.
They figured out they can price gouge, and now that's the price.
No. It's not even that. It's even simpler than that. Once upon a time, you can walk into Walmart, and you can buy a 500-round battle pack of Winchester White Box 9mm, right? $89. 89 bucks. I could load it cheaper, but for that price, it was worth it, you know? So I bought them when I could. And then when the ammo shortage started, now a 500-round box, that same ammo is like, what, $269 or some shit? Maybe even more.
You're saying that, but this brings up a really relevant topic that I have.
Sure.
And it's that if you're listening right now and you already have firearms, I urge you not to impulse buy that next gun, but instead take that money and put it into actual accessories you need to finish out projects that you already have.
Yep.
And if not, more importantly than that, buy fucking ammo and shoot the sons of bitches that you already own. Because that's the whole point of the Second Amendment, is to get out there and shoot it, not to fucking collect up more shit that's like, oh my God, that was on sale.
This is true. But I mean, what you're doing right now...
No, if you can't afford to fill up your Corvette right now, don't fucking buy another Corvette is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'll get off my pedestal now.
Well, but what you're doing now on camera is the thing that I've been preaching about ever since I even joined gun channels. It was like, don't buy one gun 1 year and buy the setup that you're seeing on the screen right now. Because when I bought into reloading equipment, it was the cost of one decent gun. Nowadays, you can get that whole setup for half the price of a decent gun. But now then we got to talk about the shortages again, right? So
just this sumbitch right here cost me what a Glock cost you.
Yeah. Is that the Case Prep Center?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I got to get one too. But the thing is like, there were 1 million new gun owners in fiscal year 2020, last year. Or 21.
Dude,
rather.
That number ranges so much. Some people say it's as high as 40 million.
Nah, 40 million guns, not new owners.
Yeah, but you're only accounting for the 4473s that they can actually report on.
Correct.
Guns that went buddy to buddy and fucking house to house.
Right, but I mean, let's just go with the fiscal numbers. They estimated there was 1 million new, like first-time gun owners. 1 million. Let's call them nightstand gun owners, right? Because that's what most of them are.
Did I hear night strike gun owners?
Nightstand.
Right.
I was leaning towards that though. Anyway, let's just call them first-time gun owners, right? So they figured 2021, 1 million new gun owners. Actually, no, it was 2020 because this has been going on for a while now. Now, imagine if you go and buy a gun, let's say let's say you're going to go buy a gun in a caliber you don't own yet. Okay? So, for instance,
Terrible move.
well, I got into 10 millimeter 2 years ago. And what ended up happening is the same thing that happens every time. I buy the gun. I know that the ammo at the place I'm buying the gun is probably overpriced, but I just buy 2 boxes anyway, right?
There you go.
It's like I overpay, but whatever. I'm supporting the local,
Got it.
right? So, 1 million new gun owners buy 2 boxes of 9 mil because they probably bought a Shield Easy 9 or a Glock 43X or something like that, right? If they went to a shop that was competent and not trying to fill a quota, and they actually took the time and they tried to see if the 43X fits in your hand better, or if a 48 would make more sense, or if a P365 was better for you, or just whatever, right? Like, it's kind of like going into a boutique and being fitted for a custom suit, right? It's sort of the same thing. Like, if I worked at a gun shop, that's exactly what I would do. Somebody would walk in and say, I want to buy a gun. I'm like, okay, well, what do you need it for? They'll explain that. I'm like, okay, what's your budget? And they'll explain that. And I'll say, okay. And I could see that, how tall they are and how big their hands are or whatever. And I would say, wait here. And I would pull out about 5 guns that I thought would fit that person's physique best. And I'll say, okay, there's this, and this. And then if they tried to pick the smallest one, I would, go into the merits of, okay, that's more concealable, but it's less controllable because, 9 millimeter in an LCP2 is obviously going to kick a lot harder than a 9 mil in a Glock 48, right? Let's be reasonable. Or a Glock 19 even. You've got more mass to work with, essentially. So let's just say that the first new gun owner buys a 9 mil and they buy 2 boxes of ammo. Now, times 1 million new gun owners, that is 100 million rounds of 9 mil that had just disappeared. There's your ammo shortage right there. 100 million rounds of 9 mil in one shot. If 1 million gun owners bought 2 boxes of ammo. See, it sounds funny. 1 gun, 1 owner, doesn't sound like a big deal. 1 owner buys 1 gun and buys 2 boxes of ammo. Still doesn't sound like a big deal. 1 gun, 2 boxes of ammo, 100 rounds. Still doesn't sound like a big deal. 1 million new gun owners buying 2 boxes of ammo, that's 100 rounds, is 100 million rounds of 9 mil. Now all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, dude! There's your ammo shortage. That's just 1 caliber. Now think about 45. Think about 380. Think about 10 millimeter. Think about all those manufacturers having to compensate for that glut of new ammo that just got sold. And there goes all the powder. And there goes all the primers. Now, that excuse would have been fine to me. It would have been palatable to me in 2019. It would have been tolerable to me in 2020. It is unreasonable and asinine that it's still short in 2022.
It's a self-made shortage.
They always say the same thing. They say, well, we don't want to up our production for a temporary glut. No, fucker. There's 1 million new gun owners. It's not a temporary glut. When they run out of their 2 boxes of ammo and they realize how fast you can go through 100 rounds of 9 mil at the range, the next time they're going to the shop, they're buying 5 boxes of ammo. And they think, okay, this should last me 2 hours. Right? So it's not a temporary glut.
Those people have no bias for how much it should cost.
Right, because
so
they're
like,
new to
we'll
this.
Just fucking all you can buy at this new price.
Yeah. And then then the market turns around and said, well, shit, the market was willing to pay this price for the last 2 years. You can obviously afford it. Why should we lower the prices?
And that's back to what I said. Those assholes that make the ammunition, because we all know that, basically all the big businesses are owned up by, a certain few individuals.
Yes.
And they were able to just fucking sit around with their cronies and be like, let's charge this.
Yeah.
And they all fucking, you know what I'm saying? Just look at anyone. Hell, look at PSA. They just opened up a new, like, you know what I'm saying, new ammo
Yeah, but that's not
facility.
going to be
And guess
online
what?
for another, like, 18 months.
Bro, they already have it. If you look at their emails, every email shows 9mm that they're selling and shit like that.
Really?
But this is the thing. That none of that ammo is worth buying, in my opinion, because it's like, bro, you didn't beat your competitors. Why am I suddenly swapping over and I gotta
it's like, hey, we're new to
spend
town,
money
but
over
we're
here.
selling it for the same price as everyone else.
And you got to pay shipping. I mean,
Yeah.
PSA used to be the place to get deals. Now it's just the place to like get lied about what MSRP is and what the deal is. They're like, woohoo, we're paying full price, but that's a deal, guys, because MSRP is actually $400 over MSRP. Yay! It's in stock though. That's the deal.
We talk about this pretty often, but yeah, like
Yeah,
the gun
fuck
shows
PSA.
there are no deals in gun shows anymore. You go to
No
gun shows
deals,
because
period.
it's like going to a flea market. You're just going there because all the sellers are in one place, so you have more variety. But you're not getting a deal. Not for new guns. Now, milsurps, different story. You can get deals for milsurps in gun shows, sure. Private sales,
Not a
maybe.
deal.
Huh?
Is you were talking about getting an AK.
Yeah.
Is the ALG defense triggers, whether you go with the basic or the I don't know, whatever they call it, the enhanced, or you go with the ultimate.
Yeah.
Which is the nickel boron, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Like either one ballooned up from like a $60 trigger, like a $90 trigger, to where now these motherfuckers are like $110 or like $160 or something.
Yep. I think I paid $69 for my first one, and I haven't seen it for that price since.
Yeah, just insane. What's going on there? And I get it, because some people have said, well, I guess you're upset that Geisley, it costs what it does. And I'm like, well, this is the thing. Geisley's always cost what it did. And when I bought Geisley, I would always buy them on sale, which I know on sale $180 is like the cheapest you're going to find at Geisley.
Yeah, and they haven't really inflated at the same rate like the ALGs did.
Yeah, and I get it, because that's what I'm saying. Like, I get it. Like, if Geisley can charge that, why the fuck can't ALG? But it's just the point that it's like, bro, you've been giving that ass away for free, and suddenly you think it's worth, you know what I'm saying? Like, everything. All the things. And I just don't get it. It's like, bro, somebody else is going to come out and knock ALG off their fucking ass.
Yeah. All right, so we have tangented to death, but I think it was good conversation.
What else we got?
All right, let's see what else we got. I think I only got like 2 stories left. 12:39 Eastern Time. So this is again at the United Nations. Oh yeah, this one was pretty asinine. Vasily Nebenzia, the permanent representative of Russia. Do I have a picture of this prick? I'm sure I do. Yeah, it's titled Russian Fucktard. There he is. This little bald-headed prick here.
That looks like Ronald McDonald.
No, he looks like Blofeld. Anyway, Vasily Nebenzia, the permanent representative of Russia to the United Nations, claimed to the Security Council Tuesday that reports of alleged atrocities carried out by the Russian military in places like Bucha are, quote, blatant criminally staged events with Ukrainian civilians who were killed by their own radicals, end quote. In a message to Ukrainian President Volodomyr Zelenskyy, Nebenzia says, it turns out that we shouldn't have withdrawn. I'm talking about Bucha, first and foremost. What a prick. I understand that you saw corpses and heard testimonials, but you only saw what they showed you, he continued. You couldn't ignore the flagrant inconsistencies in the version of events, which are being promoted by Ukrainian and Western media. Nebenzia also said in his message to Zelenskyy that I really hope that you will find a solution to the situation, because it actually depends only on you. What an arrogant douche. He said Russia, quote, came to Ukraine not to conquer lands. We came to bring the long-awaited peace to the blood-soaked land of Donbass. Not a truce, but a true lasting peace. And for this, we need to root out the cruelty for which I have mentioned. We need to cut out the malignant Nazi tumor. Okay, he just broke Godwin's law, so anything he says after this is pointless. That is consuming Ukraine, and would be in time begin to consume Russia. And we will achieve that goal, I hope, sooner rather than later, because there is no other outcome. Nebenzia also claimed that the Russian military is, quote, not shooting civilian targets in order to save as many civilians as possible. This is precisely why we are not advancing as fast as many expected. No, no, no. First of all, you're claiming a Jewish country or a nation that's full of Jewish people, including the president himself, are Nazis. First mistake. Your second mistake is you're saying you're not shooting civilian targets, and yet you bombed a theater and killed 300 in one shot. So that's bullshit. And now you're saying that you're not advancing as fast as you expected because the Ukrainian military has pushed your shit back in, and it's coming out your ears like a Play-Doh fucking toy. Anyway. We are not acting like Americans and their allies in Iraq and Syria, razing entire cities to the ground, he said. Has he not seen Mariupol? They had no pity for them, but we felt great pity because these are people who are close to us. Whatever this guy is drinking, I need it. I needs it, okay? I know that original absinthe would make you something else, right? Because of the wormwood in it. Maybe that's what he's drinking. Maybe he has, like, I don't know, an absinthe douche buried deep in his colon, flooding it daily, so he can live in the land of fairies and triple-eyed goldfish from The Simpsons. Because this guy is so out of touch with reality. Like, how does he believe the shit that's coming out of his own mouth? Like, you can be afraid of Putin to the point that you're scared to death of him, but there's no way you can believe the shit that's coming out of your own mouth. No fucking way. We're not raising cities to the entire ground, or to the ground, really. Because Mariupol's gone. There's no Mariupol. There's the remnants of Mariupol. Stalingrad had more buildings left standing after the siege than Mariupol does.
Sounds like a nice place to start a family.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know.
I have some land real cheap.
Well, I mean, I don't know, because Chernobyl's probably better. It's got a power plant, and if you started planting seeds in the ground before you get radiation sickness, you might make some wickedly huge carrots. Just saying.
The size of a rabbit.
Yeah. No shit, right? Super mutants and rad scorpions be damned.
You see the size of that chicken? Young Guns.
Yeah. It's like, man, that mosquito is the size of a pterodactyl. I guess they don't grow them just like that in Louisiana. Anyway. Next story is a good one, because I have an admiration and an affection for this person. Number one, because I'm a fellow Halfie. Number two, because he is this generation's... He is the Winston Churchill of our time. And I know it's always funny that people talk about Volodymyr Zelenskyy being Churchillian, which every time they say that, I think of chinchilla. But anyway, you don't have to call Volodymyr Zelenskyy Churchillian, because the United Kingdom has the second coming of Winston Churchill, and his name is Boris Johnson, and his hair is deliberately messed up like that. He does that on purpose, because it makes you, it takes something away from you and disarms you from being on edge. You know what I mean? Like, he does that so it takes your defenses down a bit, socially speaking. Anyway, 7:40 p.m. London time. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson had released a video message Tuesday to Russians in which he tells them that Vladimir Putin is being accused of war crimes. Here's the best part. He did it in Russian. He speaks Russian. I had no idea. This guy is highly intelligent. He's half British, half American, and he speaks Russian. He was a writer before this, for a car magazine. He was the mayor of London. He looks like a bumbling idiot to make you underestimate him, but he's incredibly intelligent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made it to prime minister. He's probably one of the best leaders they've had in a long time. Anyway, he said this in Russian, and they even put Russian and English subtitles in the video, as you can see here. And he says, the Russian people deserve the truth. You deserve the facts. And he said this in their language, later adding that your president stands accused of committing war crimes. The atrocities committed by Russian troops in Bucha, Irpin, and elsewhere in Ukraine have horrified the world. All you need is a VPN connection to access independent information from anywhere in the world. And when you find the truth, share it. Those responsible will be held to account. He just made the ultimate commercial for NordVPN security systems. And he doesn't even own it. Whatever. Anyway, the guy's a genius. I'm just saying. Moving right along. We need a leader like that, actually. We do. We really do. Because the guy
Top
we got...
Gun, we need a hero.
The guy we got now, just no.
Fucking blows.
Just no. Like...
He's asleep on Putin's dick.
Yeah, just, I mean... Every time I see Joe Biden on screen, I'm
Joe
thinking
Brandon?
I'm watching the movie What About Bob?
Hmm.
I am. And I'm just like, this is the best we had to offer, really? This is the best we could do?
I mean, Joe Brandon's not the other guy. That's what's so important about Joe Brandon, is that he doesn't mean tweet and he's not the other guy.
I lean conservative quite a bit, I admit. But I'm not so rigid as to not look at the other side. Despite the fact that the other side is full of... The far left of the other side is full of lunatics. Like, people that I wish I could find in a dark alley when I've got a mobile wood chipper with me. That kind of thing, right? But...
I still remember
But...
Brandon's fucking inauguration where it was like, it was in a parking lot at night and there was only like fucking
5
people
Jeeps
there or
parked
some
out
shit.
front. I remember
Yes,
that.
thank
I
you.
remember that.
Yeah,
That was
it
pathetic.
was so sad. It was like, what are these people doing? Like tailgating or like pretending to tailgate with their closest friends?
Nobody wanted to be there. Because here's
Yeah.
the facts are simple. You have a guy that was force-fed upon the country in a very questionable election using a very easily corruptible means of balloting, right? Nobody can deny that. Nobody. Not even they can. Because they won, so what do they care? You got
I mean,
that.
he got the most votes in history. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, duplicate votes and all that.
Yeah, everybody loves a loser,
But either way,
bumbling buffoon.
you've got that, and his vice president, number one, was his biggest critic, and she also got 0 delegates. Nobody wanted her when she ran against him in the primaries.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard picked up delegates. She's
Isn't that the brain dead one that got shot in the head?
no, that's
Mark Kelly, like
that's
Gabby Givers.
Gabby
There
Givers.
you go.
Yeah. No, Tulsi
Mark
Gabbard
Kelly
is
fucking totes her around like a retarded
she's
puppet.
the Air Force, or I think she's the Air Force retiree from Hawaii. She's not unpleasant to look at, but I have strange tastes. She's got this like rogue. She's got this gray streak on the side of her head like Rogue. Anyway, point is, she's educated. She's a veteran. Aside from her stance on guns, if you listen to her, if you just close your eyes and you listen to her speak about just subjects, right? Things that matter, and she doesn't bring up guns, you wouldn't know that she was running as a Democrat. You really wouldn't. Half the things that come out of her mouth, you would just go, that sounds reasonable, right? I'm not so rigid not to just completely ignore people. So like when she was running, I thought, well, look, sorry, honey, your stance on guns is gonna kill it for me, but everything else makes sense. I was like, I would listen to you. I may not vote for you, but I'd listen to you, right? He could have picked anybody else for his vice president, and he picked knee pads. He picked somebody
token.
nobody liked. And
He's
you're
all
right.
about that token vote.
He picked her on affirmative action, which is pathetic.
Oh yeah, he's done it multiple times. He's all about that shit.
See,
He
that's
thinks
the
he can get a
thing, though.
passport.
That's the thing. Sorry, I got mentally derailed because HVS is here.
No, it's like selective racism where they can fucking pick and choose who's special and who can, you know what I'm saying, just based on their fucking, not their merits, but their,
affirmative
you know what I'm saying,
action has
whatever.
ruined the merit system, is what it is. Like you said.
Yep.
As soon as you vote somebody in a pigeonhole, anything else other than the pigeonhole becomes irrelevant. I mean, Ketanji Jackson Brown, right?
Yep. That's an exact perfect case of it, is where you can fucking holler out some racist shit and make it so.
But the thing is they had a woman that was nominated. They had a black woman nominated over a decade ago, if I'm not mistaken. And she was more than qualified, highly educated. But because a conservative picked her, they demonized her. And it was like, nope, can't be that one because, racism. And it's like, wait a minute. No, she's one of she's one of yours in terms of pigeonhole. What are you talking about? Well, because you picked it, I can't support that. Fine. What about Clarence Thomas? Now he doesn't count. What? Anyway. Okay, so HVS was saying last night I said that the war was tactically over. No, I didn't. I said that if Odessa falls, then the war is tactically over for the Ukraine. Because what ends up happening is they have no seaport to bring in supplies. And they would just have to do once they take over Odessa, then they can force Moldova to recommit to Russia instead of helping Ukraine. Because remember, on day one, back in February 24th, 9,000 Russian troops stepped across the border into Ukraine from Moldova. The reason they were able to do so is because Moldova is poor. And I'm not doing that to belittle Moldova. They're the poorest country in the region. They have almost no military to speak of. They had no way to stop it. Russia was just like, yeah, you see this space over here? We're going to take over this and there's nothing you can do about it. We're Russia, you're poor, we'll kill you. And Moldova was like, just don't break our China. That's the last plates we got. You know what I mean? Like, just don't fuck up our country. So they just allowed 9,000 troops to stay there and then step over, right? If they take over Odessa, they're right back up against the Moldovan border, which means they can just walk back over and go, yo, we're going to resupply here and kill all the Ukrainians that you've been hiding. Don't put it past them. Once they're done with that, they can do another end around. They can go back up to the Russian border, back into Belarus, and come right back down on top of Kyiv. And then they just close off the Polish border. Then it's over. It's absolutely over at that point. Because the fact of the matter is you're not going to pull off a Berlin airlift. Because the first plane you send into the border is going to get S-400 to death. And then the Russians will be like, that's escalatory. If you didn't bring anything in by air before, you absolutely won't after. That's when it's tactically over. That's why keeping Odessa in the hands of Ukraine is so important right now. That's why Zelenskyy is so insistent that the UN stop fucking around. Because he's basically putting his hands up in the air going, how many more people of my country have to die? How much more of my country has to fall before you hold up your end of the bargain of being a security ally in a group that I'm trying to join that forced me to give up my trump card of nuclear weapons 8 years ago? That's a valid question for him to ask. Absolutely valid question. Anyway, moving on. 8:40 p.m. Ukrainian local time. Dusk, nighttime. Air Force is going to get busy, as usual. Officials are warning that Russian forces are preparing for a new offensive in Ukraine's southeast. While Ukraine has pushed back against Russian troops in recent days, taking back territory, including areas around the capital city of Kyiv, the head of NATO warned that Russia is regrouping and plans to deploy soldiers in eastern and southern Ukraine for a crucial phase of the war. Moscow is not giving up its ambitions in Ukraine, NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg said Tuesday. We expect a further push in the eastern and southern Ukraine to try to take the entire Donbass and to create a land bridge to the Crimean Peninsula, which Russia annexed in 2014. Russia-backed separatists in the Donbass have been fighting Ukrainian troops for the last 8 years. You don't say. Let's see. About an hour later, we're back in New York, I think it is. 3:41 Eastern Standard Time. And I have this photo for you. And her name is Linda Thomas Greenfield. And you probably know her as the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. So, the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations highlighted Tuesday what she deemed as credible reports about Russian forces abducting tens of thousands of Ukrainian civilians, confiscating passports and interrogating people in so-called filtration camps, and then forcibly relocating them to Russia. The remarks from the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas Greenfield, came after Ukrainian President Volodomyr Zelenskyy, speaking remotely from Ukraine, addressed the UN Security Council. He called for Russian troops to be brought up on war crime charges for atrocities uncovered in Bucha and around Kyiv before a tribunal similar to the one set up in Nuremberg after World War II. I mean, why not? We're talking about Nazis and shit. Might as well talk about Nuremberg. We've all seen the gruesome photos, lifeless bodies lying in the streets, apparently summarily executed, their hands tied behind their backs, Thomas Greenfield said, referring to images surfacing from the Bucha massacre after Russian forces pulled back from the capital region in recent days. She had an exchange with the Russian counterpart at the UN Security Council meeting. Vasily Nebenzia. They got into it today, quite a bit. And she basically just said, the more you talk, the more you condemn your nation. Shut the fuck up. It was great. Like, she's not taking this shit. Because nobody is drinking the Kool-Aid that Russia's pouring at these... There's no way. Nobody's buying it. Like, not even a little. Anyway. Moving right along.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie, Kool-Aid sounds really good right now. I haven't had Kool-Aid in like years.
Strawberry Kool-Aid with too much sugar is excellent. Actually, the grape one's pretty good too.
I like that red, or it was the red one, but
That's
like
so
the powder
racist.
was blue.
It's so racist.
Kool-Aid's
You're talking
racist?
about the one where the powder's red, or the powder was blue, you add water and it turns red?
Yes.
That's that like berry jazz or whatever
I can't remember what the color was.
Yeah.
Or what the name was. Yeah, it was like some tropical. It was like tropical berry or some shit.
It was
fucking
super
awesome.
good. I'm with you on that. You mix that shit with gin, holy crap. Anyway,
Well, like I said, I'd be fine just drinking it straight, man.
I'm okay with that too.
I haven't had Kool-Aid forever. Fucking put some ice on that shit. Oh,
Well,
there.
know what you're doing tomorrow.
Yeah, probably give me some Kool-Aid. What do you mean you bought a whole pallet of Kool-Aid?
Start small. Just get one of those little boxes that has like 25 little packets in it.
But it turns out tropical berry actually sucks. Maybe we really did fucking crash into another universe in 2012.
All right. Let's see. I did this one. Yes. Okay. So, Moving right along, about an hour later, and we're in D.C., 442. U.S. State Department is investigating reports of an attack in Ukraine involving chemicals. That photo I showed you earlier. Ukrainian officials have accused Russian military forces of hitting a storage tank filled with nitric acid in the city of Rubizhnya, located in Luhansk. We are aware of reports of this incident and are looking into it as we await further details. This is what the State Department released. We are concerned about the harm to anyone in the vicinity that a nitric acid leak may cause. It is clear Russia's forces continue to bombard cities and critical infrastructure across Ukraine and commit terrible acts of violence. Unclear as to the scope of the effects and unclear at this time if the strike was part of a strategy to weaponize the stored chemicals. But obviously this is cause for concern and we are monitoring it. Additionally, a government expert says that if the tank held fuming nitric acid and the intent was to release the toxic, that's what it is, nitrogen dioxide gas, whose inhalation's effects are similar to phosgene and chlorine gases, then it can be ruled a chemical weapons event. That's the one. See, I knew I wrote it down. Yeah, nitrogen dioxide works just like phosgene. Where did we see phosgene? Oh, that's right, World War I. Where did we see chlorine gas? That's right, World War II. Anyway, President Biden has previously stated that the United States would respond to a chemical weapons attack. Not that I would believe that. Oh, let me catch up on the chat. So HVS says that the reason affirmative action doesn't work is that two wrongs don't make a right. Correct. You can't redress a wrong against one group of people by committing another wrong against a different group of people. Correct. Whenever some fool promotes CRT, I point out that the last group of people promoting the idea that one race was bad and another race was victimized by the bad race were all hanged in Nuremberg. Except the one that smuggled in the cyanide. Huh. Alright. I'll give you. Okay. I'm with you. Alright. 2 stories left, because I did find one right before we started, and I promise I didn't do this to make you lose your lunch. And don't worry, she's leaving the White House soon. Not soon enough. I can't look at that face. 542, D.C. The White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, this is post facto, by the way. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki reiterated Tuesday that it is not in the interest of the United States to go to war with Russia. Psaki's remarks came after she was asked by CBS reporter Stephen Portnoy how the atrocities and images out of Ukraine do not compel a military response led by the U.S. and its partners. I think that the president's objective is, and his responsibility is, to make decisions that are in the interest of the United States and the national security of the United States and the American people, Psaki said, and it is not to go to war with Russia. It is to do everything in our power to hold them accountable, to support efforts through international systems to do exactly that, and to provide military assistance, security assistance, and to support the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian government. That's exactly what we're doing. It is not in our interest or in the interest of the American people for us to be in a war with Russia, she concluded. Word salad. Now remember, this ginger bitch is taking a 7-figure salary to go work for PMSNBC soon. Shill. Why do I want to believe anything that comes out of her mouth? Shill. Exactly. You can like redheads. This one, no. Just no. Let me take her away. Take her away. Take it and go. So I want to take what she said and I want to opine on this. And you're welcome to disagree, or you're welcome to agree, or you're welcome to input your own thought into this in the form of either the chat or in a comment if you see this in the replay. She says that the president's objective and his responsibility is to make decisions that are in the interest of the United States and the national security of the United States and the American people, right? Not to go to war with Russia. I would argue that it is in the interest of the United States, who has been, according to Joe Biden, stalwart in keeping the alliance of the United Nations together, right? You've heard him say this several times in the last 41 days, to keep the alliance strong, right? I think it would be in the interest of the United States and the EU and the UN to put an end to this sooner rather than later. And you've heard this in previous episodes, and I said the problem with us, because let's be honest, it's us. We control NATO. We control the UN. We control the EU. It might sound arrogant, but at the end of the day, let's not lie to ourselves. They always wait to see what we're going to do, and then they jump in behind us, right? It's just a fact. It's not to detract from what they're doing. It's a fact. They follow us. We lead by example. We're the best example of global leadership in history. We are. We just are. It's a fact. Otherwise, they wouldn't be following us every time, right? So, I believe that it is in our interest to end this quickly. And the thing that we failed to do every time, we did it in World War I, we did it in World War II, is we sat back, we let it happen, and we made the battlefield a much harder theater to fight in, which makes more of our troops die, because it's a harder war to win later on. You see, when this all started, the UN could have just jumped in immediately. They could have, this could have all been avoided. All of it. Before Russia invaded, during, or right after the Winter Olympics, Ukraine was begging for entry into NATO, right? And they slow-walked it. Russia said, if you put them in NATO, that's an escalation. That's exactly what you should have done if you were NATO. You should have immediately said, you know what, you're in. And you call Putin's bluff. Because then he's going to be like, well, fuck, I can't have Ukraine. Well, fine, I'm going to go take Lithuania. And it'll be like, no, Lithuania is already a NATO nation. And they'll be like, fine, then I'm going to go take Finland. And be like, yeah, remember what happened last time you tried that, bro? And they're going to be like, yeah, but they're not a NATO nation. And then Finland's going to turn around and look at NATO and go, hey, they're coming after us now. Their Eye of Sauron is looking at us. And we'll just be like, cool, welcome to UN. Welcome to NATO. Put him in instantly and stop him. That's how you contain communism. That's how you contain the old Russia. Because remember, this whole thing is one man's wet dream. It's a dying man's last wish. Most of his military were not born into the Soviet Union. They were born in capitalism. They don't believe the shit that they're being told to do. The die-hard officer corps is pushing these troops to do these things on fear of treason and death. They're forced into this, most of them. They're conscripts. They're Benjamin Franklin Pierce. If you think about it, some of you are old enough to watch MASH and know MASH. Some of you will remember Pierce having a recurring theme throughout the show. I didn't want to be here. I'm a draftee. I'm stuck here. That's your average Russian infantryman right now. They didn't ask to be there. They're conscripts. They're kids. They don't want to be there. They're not allowed to leave, though, because what do you think the Russians are going to do to deserters? You remember, Ukrainians are their brothers, right? Oh, you're our brothers. Look what they're doing to their own brothers. What do you think they're going to do to a conscript? They don't give a shit. Russians don't care about human life. They never have. They never will. Government, that is. Anyway. This could have all been stopped early. When the convoy was sitting there stuck 10 miles outside of Kyiv, highway of death. It would have ended it right there. One decisive, crushing defeat. Shock and awe. Wipe out the whole column. That war would have been over. It would have ended right there. Because all of Putin's logistics would have been destroyed. All his resupply, gone. Didn't do it. No. Tens of thousands of people had to die first. Cities had to crumble into dusted ruin first. Entire pieces of their history wiped out first. Generations of hatred bred between the old men, the young men, and the children who were victims of this. None of them will ever forgive Russia. That all had to happen first. Why? Because it's in our interest to let it happen first? How about this? Try this on for size. The United States never planned on Ukraine surviving, let alone winning. They thought this was going to be over in 3 or 4 days, and they'd start the negotiation process with the new overlords. We never, ever anticipated what Ukraine has done. Never. We should be proud to know those people right now for what they're capable of. But we're not. Because they're just diet Russians in the eyes of geopolitics. How pathetic, right? How despicable to even think that. But I guarantee you some asshole in the Pentagon's thinking that. At the end of the day, they're just diet Russians. That's what they were thinking. The national interest, she says, for the American people. How about, what if we helped them and we developed a lifelong ally for eternity? People who would be so grateful that they would build us a monument similar to the Statue of Liberty as a thank you. We saved them from the last vestiges of communist Russia. I'm telling you, this was a moment in history where Russia could have been geopolitically destroyed forever as a military superpower, and we wasted it. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Jen Psaki, you fucking morons. Way to squander that opportunity. Final story of the day, and then I promise I'll let you go. 8:57 Eastern Standard Time, Washington, D.C., yet again. Here's a photo for you. That'll give you an idea what we're talking about. Bing! The United States will send an additional $100 million worth of Javelin anti-tank missiles to Ukraine as the country's war with Russia continues. In a memo sent to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, President Biden directed the drawdown of up to an aggregate value of $100 million in defense articles and services of the Department of Defense and military education and training to provide assistance to Ukraine and to make determinations required under such section to direct such a drawdown. Word salad. He's going to give them the tools. Hopefully they can finish the job. Anyway. That's all I've got for you today. I didn't have many other stories on top of that, I don't think. Yeah, because the latest updates are General Milley issues a warning about Russia and Ukraine's war. Nobody cares what General Milley says because he's a shill too. Zelenskyy tells UN that Russia should be tried for war crimes. We already know this. So I think I made it. It's 2 hours. So I'm going to play this. And I'm going to thank you all for being part of the chat today, which was very active. I want to thank my panelists who were more active than usual. I was told to try to step aside a bit and let them talk more, which is good because they didn't want to before, but now I've got panelists that do, so I am grateful for that.
I'm cross with Scott. He said nothing. He sat on the potty muted the whole time, I
It's
believe.
okay. Probably had a
Just fucking with you.
He probably had a bad day. Anyway, if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a regular here, welcome back. Either way, check out my other playlists. See if my other playlists might be of interest, or my other interests might be of interest to you. This was The War Room. This was day 41. We will be back tomorrow for day 42. Slava Ukraini, and we'll see you tomorrow.